Season 7 of League of Legends, much like an edgy tween going through that pesky puberty phase, has been switching itself up at such a rapid pace it's rather hard to keep track of what exactly it wants the metagame to be. Meanwhile, impressively at the same time managing to dodge the actual issues plaguing the game in the recent patches, akin to a professional martial artist dodging their opponent's blows. In fact, the amount of ungodly strong champions has reached such an all-time high, Riot has decided to add a solid 2 more bans for each team in LCS, allowing the pros, and hopefully us average players, to pretend that the game is in any way properly balanced with slightly more ease. As of the recent 7.3 patch, where Riot pulls one of the meanest pranks of 2017 and pretends to nerf the following god's mistakes, fooling those who think that a small amount of damage off of LeBlanc's passive or a 15 mana increase on Jace's hammer form E will actually change a thing about the current game state, causing the poor bastards in silver, gold, and plat, who'd actually think that these nerfs will fix a thing, to leave them unbanned until they realize not much has changed since 7.2. But, while all these deceptive balancing attempts are occurring, a forgotten monstrosity has slowly risen back to relevancy as the lethality meta takes hold of the game. A champion so rudimentary in design that any buff or nerf to him can easily put him over the edge of broken or useless, one of the few champions defined as a tank and a fighter. Now the words Dr.Mundo and is strong alone may send a large group of League players into hysterics who have been around long enough to see him quite literally win games on his own by running around in the enemy's base, regenning his health bar over and over while sitting on your ADC. While Riot did nerf Mundo's early game to the point of him being slightly less useful than a super minion, Mundo still has the potential to reach his former glory if given the means to farm uninterrupted and gain a level lead while also having the option to pick his own fights. If you haven't caught on to what I'm saying yet, in this early game oriented lethality meta, Dr.Mundo can find himself struggling against pretty much all laners, but if left to scale freely in the jungle, he can rather easily reach a point where he can 1v1 these assassins and outscale them to a point where he can roll over them all on his own. In this video, I'll be giving you the advice, tips, and tricks needed to take this quite literally brain damaged champion with a gameplay kit fit to match his character perfectly into your rank games to show those filthy lethality champions that mechanics mean nothing when you have armor and percentage health damage. Jungling as Mundo can be considered similar to Master Yi and Shyvana, albeit with more gank potential, although the first thing you need to look out for when jungling as Brain Hemorrhage PhD is early invades. Mundo's first clear is by far one of the unhealthiest among jungle champions, which honestly makes sense considering his abilities cost HP to use. And enemy junglers with a functional front lobe will try to take advantage of this by aiming to kill you in your own jungle. To help avoid these, use your early trinket wards to help get vision on key choke points where you suspect an invade may possibly occur. Now, for a tip most summoners have trouble following, if your buff gets contested on Mundo and your team is too slow to react, which depending on your elo may often be the case, feel free to give it up as opposed to going for a fight or a hero play. Dr.Mundo easily has one of the best tank scalings in League, and is arguably much better to give your enemy jungler a buff advantage as opposed to a buff and a 400 gold first blood. So remember, play like the coward you actually are early game, but change your playstyle and grow a pair once you reach that Red Smite Cinderhulk power spike. As much as I would love to go into the many options Mundo has when building as a jungle tank, viewer retention is a bitch to maintain. So instead, I will give you one quick core build that can change at your own discretion depending on the game you're in. It looks like this. Now at this point, I'm sure you're wondering where the f*** Yasuo's core item and the most disgustingly overtuned mage item are doing on a tank. Well, firstly, as opposed to a Maokai or Nautilus, Riot actually intended for Dr.Mundo to be a tank as well as a strong fighter, having him trade CC for raw damage and dueling capability. So instead of having another video bashing Riot on their inability to make tanks balanced and fun to play against, let's go a little in depth as to the applications of our good doctor's weird ass build path. Phantom Dancer is one of those special, unique items that give you a wonderful stat called flat damage reduction, which in theory is amazing for the melee crit duelists who use it like Yasuo, Gangplank, and Vayne. But what most seem to forget is that this is also a stat that tanks love, and thanks to Mundo's E giving him around 100 plus AD with 5 points in the spell, he is also the only tank that can take advantage of the additional 30% critical strike chance without being reported in the post-game lobby for building Phantom Dancer on a tank. This may seem a little weird in theory, but once you realize that you're an unstoppable, uncharacteristically fast tank with upwards of 3 free BF swords in your kit and crit chance, you'll have the enemies screaming "what is counterplay" in no time. When looking at Liandry's Torment on Mundo, it isn't exactly as stat efficient as Phantom Dancer, as the 80 AP you get from it will only give you a bonus 8 magic damage for each tick of your W. But by no means does this mean Liandry's is a bad item on Mundo, only a much more situational one. On Mundo, the stats we are looking for from this item are the 300 health, 15 flat magic penetration, but mainly the extremely balanced 2% current HP burn this item gives you on spells. What most people seem to overlook is that you can permanently keep this effect up if you keep your enemy inside Mundo's W range at all times, which will be the case when fighting. You can increase the 2% burn to a 4% burn if you land your cleaver, which even the most inexperienced Mundo players can eventually land if they mash Q hard enough in the general direction of the enemy. This damage with the 15 magic penetration is nothing to scoff at. Tanks will find themselves melting in front of you while at the same time struggling to dent your health bar. Speaking of tanks, you will only be building this item if you find the enemy team to be rather tanky as opposed to high damage and squishy. Phantom Dancer will do you better in terms of gold efficiency against squishy high damage teams in comparison to Liandry's Torment. So remember, against a team of squish, PD's your bitch, and with a team of tanks, Liandry's is danks. Who the f wrote this? And with that, I wish you the best of luck with Riot's Balance Oversight Mundo Jungle. Let me know in the comments how you do and if you actually manage to climb.